This morning, I'm just going to talk about the impact of COVID-19 on the human psyche. So I understand this is a cybersecurity talk, but I love to actually focus on the human element. The human element is unfortunately one of the most difficult parts in cybersecurity to protect. So just some background on me. So I've done my doctoral thesis on social engineering, and I constantly sit and work, look at social media. How is it affecting people? How is all the fake news we're currently getting affecting people? And every single person has an inherent desire to stay informed. It is part of your psychological schema and how you are made up. You want to always be informed. You want to know what's going on. That is why all of us are sitting on the internet, looking at Facebook, looking at Twitter, seeing what's going on, seeing what other people are doing. And in this day and age of the whole COVID-19 pandemic, everyone wants to be informed. However, staying informed is a really mentally taxing task. And apart from just staying informed, we also have started facing the opportunity where we now need to start working from home. So the problem is everyone has been moving to home office. In that scenario is it's not only the people who are very technologically savvy who is moving to home office, it's your general user who gets to the office, turns on their computer and assumes it'll work. So today we're going to discuss on why is the home office environment so much different, what is the COVID-19 doing to us, and how is it happening? So previously, that was my original workspace at North University College. We had a very nice, clean office. Everything was sorted. You had your desk. You would just go in, plug in your machine. All the lights conditions will be working perfectly, and there's nothing to really worry about. You can sit down, quickly do your work. In this day and age, that has almost become a home office. Every nook and cranny in your house, you've started to be able to convert it into a home office. Not everyone has the luxury of having a nice dedicated area where they can use do perform their work from. Some people stay in collectives, which basically where there's a bunch of people staying in the same household. So you need to make compromises, especially when your meetings are happening. People could be walking in and out. It could be noisy. There's a lot of things you need to compromise on making these things work. And it's really become difficult. I mean, example on this photo here, something that people don't ever think about. When you move to home office, you're probably going to sit on one of your kitchen chairs for starters. And it's really bad for your back in that scenario. It's something you only realize 2 or 3 weeks into the exercise. And at that point in time, it's too late to go to the office to get a chair to address the problem. There's a lot of things like that which people did not consider originally. And the media out there, they are giving us really conflicting information. The message is either like the end is near, everyone's going to die, the disease is going to kill us, where the Center for Disease Control put out a flyer that said, just keep calm, wash your hands, it will be okay. And people don't know what to follow. So currently we're sitting in the situation, everyone wants to know what's going on. The buzzwords out there is listening to what the government says, what's happening, what is the new regulations. Since I'm originally from South Africa, I'm actually following the Norwegian regulations and the South African regulations at the same time. And it's different from what each government does. And the news comes in drips and drabs. It isn't a constant flow of news. I mean, we get once a day an update on how many new infections there were, how many new deaths there were, and people really want this information. Also, the move to working from home. Everyone thought it would be a lot easier to work from home. It used to be a desirable thing to work from home, and people have started realizing that working from home is not such a nice thing. Actually, it is really difficult. You get into psychological problems where shutting off from your office job has become such a problem. There's a lot of tips out there on routines you can follow, how to differentiate between your personal life and your work life. And in essence, what's happening is people are actually starting to work more when they're working from home instead of working less when they're working from home. So all of this causes stress. So people become hysteric. People start struggling to sleep. You get headaches. Eventually, you move over to depression. And people are really upset that they are stuck at home, can't move, can't get to the office. Especially your extroverts, they are really upset that they can't engage with other people. So what is the impact of all of this? What is the impact of COVID-19 situation? It's leading to more and more stress on individuals. And according to quite a few studies out there, the more stress you are under, the more vulnerable you are, and your cognitive reasoning ability is severely hampered and decreased when you actually are under stress. It also causes you to have a heightened sense of emotion. So anything out there that looks interesting, you will immediately click on it, and that's how you easily fall prey. So social engineering actually uses the clever manipulation of the natural human tendency to trust. Especially now that everyone is in a very high emotional state. People want information, they trust most media outlets, and people are really willing to click links because they are really in great need to get information at this point in time. So how social engineering works, and this is the type of attacks we see currently. I've done a whole research study on how the attacks transformed between the Ebola virus to where the COVID-19 the pandemic has come in. So typically in social engineering, attacks are either over email, face-to-face communication, telephone communication. You've got unidirectional attacks, which is your SMSs, email, paper mail. And this is something actually that Frederick touched on from the very little Norwegian that I actually understand at this point in time. If the tax office sends you an SMS or an email, just verify that it actually did come from the tax office. Give them a call. Are they aware of this? Should you click on the link? Should you not click on the link? People inherently just go ahead and click on the link. You also get other attacks, which is through third-party mediums, through pamphlets, flash drives, or web pages. So getting onto the crux of this presentation, understanding how the human psyche works. Why are we so vulnerable? Why are all these attacks so prevalent right now? So these are all based on Cialdini's principles, which is why people trust each other. Especially in Norway, it's a very trusting society. However, you are not alone in this scenario. A lot of societies will not function without the element of trust. There's a reason people keep money in a bank account. You trust the institution to not lose your money. As it creates an ease of use, you get a bank card, a debit or credit card that allows you to easily spend your money. Something in Norway that I've seen is very, very few people actually carry cash. It's really an exception to carry cash. Thus, everyone trusts the banking institution to actually keep your money for you. So where the friendship and liking principle comes in, if you want to approach someone and engage with them, you use a concept called incidental similarity. It's basically according to the small attention to the small details on how you engage. People who are wearing hats are more likely to engage with other people wearing hats. A great example is if I sat here in a short sleeve t-shirt with some other logo on it, some sport logo, you as participants would take me a lot less serious than where I'm now sitting. I'm sitting with a button t-shirt. It looks like I belong in business, and it's a way that I can connect with you guys. It's just a very basic thing. Also, in the commitment of consistency principles, and I relate a lot of these things on how children actually interact with you. And these are the same way that cybersecurity attackers actually interface with you. The foot in the door technique is very basic. If you send your child to the store, let's say Rema 1000, and you give them 5 krona to go and buy an ice cream cone. They get to the store, they realize the ice cream cone is 12 krona now. You've already committed so that your child can buy an ice cream cone. It is extremely difficult for you to now go back on your word that the child can buy an ice cream cone. You will always add the additional 7 krona to that so that the child can go and buy the ice cream. Then, especially when you purchase cars, the lowball procedure that really works is you get into the car dealership, walk in there, you get a sales agent, tells you this beautiful Tesla Model X is there, only costs 400,000 or 500,000 krona, and it's really the car you need. At that point in time, you decide, yes, I really want the Tesla Model X. It's a good car. It's what I need. And after you've committed to buying the car, the sales agent goes and says, well, it doesn't include the taxes, or it doesn't include this nice tires that you want, and that start adding additional benefits like service plans and so forth on it. That is why car dealerships are so profitable. It's on how they sell the extras to you. So it's very difficult for you after you've committed to a decision, after you've clicked on the link, to stop entering your password on there. You've already committed to log on to a site, clicked on a phishing email. It's very difficult for you to change. Scarcity, playing hard to get. This is a very common concept. Everyone knows about it. People desire items that they cannot have. So the photo I've got to put in here on a pizza is just to make it a more cartoony thing. If that is a really special slice of pizza, you really want it, but there's 2 or 3 other people who also really want this slice of pizza, you have a better tendency to go out and grab the pizza before anyone else can have it, just because it's something you desire that you cannot have. You're worried that other people might grab it before you. Another principle under the scarcity technique is using the deadline technique. This photo is actually still from a South African website. I'm busy in process trying to update it to the Norwegian website. I just haven't found a very good enough example to put on the slide here. But something that happens here, we've got a lot of sales in South Africa as well. However, they are time frame limited. As you can see, it's 50% off across departments. However, only from 12 to 1. There's 2 or 3 times in this image where it accentuates. It says it's only for 1 hour. You need to act now. There's a deadline associated to it. And people then jump to purchase the product because they feel they are going to miss out. There's a lot of people who go out, look at newspapers, they buy items just because it is on sale, not because they need it. This is something we all know. We fall into this trap. We buy stuff because it's on a sale, not because we specifically need it. Then the reciprocity technique, and this is actually a study done in the psychology domain, where there was a bake sale that was hosted. So the first concept was, in the very first day, there was a bake sale held. The cupcake costs 10 NOK, and for an additional 5 NOK, you would get 2 chocolate chocolate chip cookies additional. So you would have to pay 15 krona for 1 cupcake and 2 chocolate chip cookies. They had an amount of sale. The very next day, they did the same thing where for 15 krona, the same amount, you buy a cupcake and you get 2 free chocolate chip cookies. So it's the exact same thing. It is just different in the thing. And it was a drastic amount of more sales as you now get something free in your mind. Another technique is door in the face technique, and this is one of the best images that I use on my slides. I always get really good feedback on it, and it's basically, hello sir, will you buy a pony? And the person says, why would I ever do that? It makes no sense. And you go, no. And the Girl Scout then goes and says, well, will you at least buy a couple of the Girl Scouts cookies? And you're like, well, I already said no to the ridiculous request, and then, but let me help out this person. So this is basically softening the actual request you have by putting a ridiculous request at the first point. It becomes very difficult and you become guilty because you've already said no to the person. Now you actually want to assist the person. So that's just how the reciprocity principle works. Then social validation, and this is something I see very often in Norway actually, the culture of queuing. What happens is people tend to stand in queues, not because they know why they're standing in queues, just because everyone else is doing it. It's part of social validation. You tend to do exactly what everyone else is doing. It's the same way where everyone is starting to do social distancing. We can see everyone's keeping a 1 meter or 2 meter gap between each other, and you automatically fall part of that, even though you don't know why some people are doing it. If you're not following the news and stuff, you will see people are doing it, and you will automatically do it due to social validation. Then the authority principle, and this is something I use every single time when I teach it at university level. I would walk in as a guest lecturer in a class, and I would tell the class, please just stand up, wave your hand, wave your other hand, and then I would ask them, why did you do this? Why did you do this? Since I was a guest lecturer in that class, people are like, because you stood in front of the class, you asked us to do it. And I'm like, you haven't at any point in time questioned why I'm here. Am I actually the guest lecturer? You just went ahead and followed all my orders as I was standing in front of class. And in this case, and this is something I really want to bring home with everyone, especially in these trying times, when you get an email from your boss about depositing money into a bank account, or when you get an SMS from the tax office, just because they're an authoritative figure, question the request. It will save you or your organization a lot of money if you just question why, and it immediately breaks a social engineering attack if an attacker is trying to request money from you. Then, lastly, at this point in time, training is the key. That's why I discuss psychology principles. It's stuff everyone can relate to. It's stuff everyone can understand. Just allowing you to know about this. Before this presentation started, you were unconsciously incompetent to defend against social engineering attacks. I've now told everyone about how it works, how social engineering works, what's happening. So at this point in time, you're aware, you're consciously incompetent. You know you might fall prey to these attacks. However, as today progresses, you're actually going to think about, what did Francois say? What did Frederick say? What should I do? How can I better my cybersecurity posture? And you'll be starting to improve. You'll think about, why am I clicking on this link? Why is this email there? Should I click on the link? Should I click on the SMS from the tax office? And you'll actually become consciously competent. Then in 2 or 3 weeks from now, you'll know, well, I've gone through this process. I now know how to detect phishing emails. I know how these things work. And you actually become a really skilled person, and you become unconsciously competent. So what I've put up here, and just in an essence of time, I've just summarized my security guidelines for Home Office. I'm very much of the opinion to give people tips that is directly stuff they can do. I'm also in the process of releasing comic strips, and I'll be doing it throughout this week, about how you can operate your operating system and the software you use daily. Stuff like Adobe Acrobat Reader that you use on a daily basis. It's very important to use these devices. Also, when you're at home office, don't let your family use any of your office devices. It becomes really problematic because you have no control on what links they click. Then, securing your home network. And the tips I discussed under the topic typically is just try to use WPA2 protection, or try to use a secure passphrase for your wireless network. Then, something that isn't so obvious is updating the software on all of the electronic devices in your household. If you have a smart TV or smart lighting systems, update the software on there. And I'm actually bringing out a tutorial on how you can do that, how to update your TV. Then, lastly, from the psychology perspective, always question the authenticity of the communication. Breed a culture in your organization where you're allowed to question why a certain email was sent. Should you react on it? Is it real? What's going on there? All of my research is public on the ResearchGate profile. I post every week. I do post different webinars on my LinkedIn profile as well, if anyone wants a link to that. And please, if you've got any questions, you're more than welcome to ask.